Gannon. I have something very important I need to do right now, and while I do this, I need a favor from you, buddy. If you see a 7-year-old boy by the name of JJ Vallow running around, could you show him how to play Sonic? I didn't think you'd mind. But I gotta be honest with you. Once he gets the hang of it, he's probably going to break every single high score there is. That's because while he's born with autism, he's also incredibly bright. So intelligent, he was reading real books as early as 4 years old. You know, sometimes, I wish there were more times, but sometimes, little JJ Vallow was lucky in life. Not many kids get a second chance, as JJ did. But he got a second chance. Being adopted by a loving father by the name of Charles Vallow. You'll be hearing about Charles Vallow later. Having older siblings, they were adults, but still, everybody wants a big brother, right? But the main joy, the main sibling he was with every day, went by the name of Tylee Ryland, 17-year-old sister, who was so full of life herself. And if you ever get confused at any time while you're watching this on anyone's names I mention, these are the only two you really need to know. You really need to keep in your head. You really need to put in your heart. Because they have been through a lot. Any child that loses a parent at an early age should be a very traumatic and emotional event. And they lost their father, Charles Vallow. At this moment, it's one of the billion times I wish that their mother, Lori Vallow, I want to apologize for the disgust that comes across sometimes when I say her name. But their mother, Lori Vallow, should have put them in counseling, made them sit still, not change their life. But she did. All the way from Arizona to a little town in Idaho. I worried about those children. Such a drastic change. But at least they didn't make the trip by themselves. Lori brought her brother with her. And he stood by very close, even moving in the same apartment complex in Idaho as Lori and her two children, Tylee and JJ. Even taking them to a trip to Yellowstone National Park. I have an obsession with Yellowstone. I think about the beautiful sunny weather as the buffalo run across the fields and you see horses running by, and we adopted the great wolf back into our society. Only in Yellowstone. The warm geysers blowing in the air. brings a smile on my face every time I think of this place. Until this story. As I sit here, I won't hold you in suspense. I'll just tell you right now, no one knows where JJ and his sister Tylee is. But this trip with their uncle and their mother is the last time anyone will see Tylee, at least. And it is at this point where I think about Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci, John, what does Joe Pesci have to do with anything? I imagine these two children at Yellowstone, away from everyone but the two people they dearly love in life, besides their sweet, nurturing, perfect grandparents. JJ's biological grandparents. And when I think of being surrounded by ultimate trust, it is at this point I think about mafia movies. Do you guys know how a mafia really takes a hit out on a person? They don't tie you to a chair like in the movies and you don't get all bloody. You aren't paranoid, worrying what's going to happen to you. In the mafia, as Joe Pesci was in the movie Goodfellas, you're happy. You're around loved ones, people you trust, and in an instant, you're no longer with us. That is the absolute best news that could have happened to Tylee. Because I hope she didn't turn around and see her uncle and her mother and go through something horrific in a place that, unless you're with a good group of tourists, no one's going to hear you scream. The best ending is a Joe Pesci mafia hit. And I ask myself, why? Why do parents do things like this? Is it because Lori found new love in her life? But when I think about Lori finding new love in her life, her new husband, who could be a new stepfather for her two children, he should have been the first person to know about loss, because he lost his wife too. The grieving from losing a spouse, and Lori losing a spouse. I would have thought that'd been the perfect situation for little JJ and Tylee, but it wasn't. Such senseless murder. For what motive? For love? And I told you guys how I feel about sloppy murders, even though all murders are senseless. But when it's sloppy, it's when it's right in your face. You should have just given them to their grandparents instead of lying and saying that you gave it to them. One of many lies that Lori Vallow would go on to say. And she'd also go on to say she gave them to a friend. When the police and the FBI questioned her friend, the friend broke immediately, saying, "She told me to lie to you all, saying that I have JJ, and I don't." Lies so preposterous. I am so happy that they were loved by their grandparents that first reported them missing. That the police department gives you an ultimatum just to show us your children. Just show us. What mother won't just show her children? This gaze, this smile, as if nothing is wrong. What mother doesn't show her children? Why can't you produce your children, Lori? And now your honeymoon has come to an end. Beautiful pictures of your wedding on the beach in Hawaii that took place mere weeks after your missing children. Who does that? What sick monster does that? It seems like so many other crimes in our past, in our history. Had a woman in South Carolina who drowned her 2 sons because she was going to go date another man who didn't like children. Unsolved cases this year where it looks like a woman may have killed their own baby girl to be with a guy who allegedly doesn't like children. But everybody and their mother is talking about Lori Vallow. Why? Being in Texas beauty pageants. What make Lori Vallow so special? Buckle up, kiddos. We're just beginning. Come on in. You're all invited. We have a story to finish. My son, during this quarantine, he keeps trying to dribble the basketball between his legs, and I'm trying to teach him you have to learn the basics first. Just dribble with one hand and don't look. And he thinks it's so easy, and he tries to dribble without looking, and he sees it's hard. I know you want to get to this step, but you got to start with the basics in order to get to that step. So that's what I did with you guys for this story. This is going to be very complex. There's going to be a lot of people involved in this story. So I wanted to give you the basis I've tried to figure out many ways that I can do this because it was so confusing with me trying to learn from multiple sources of everybody's involvement and what actually took place. So I said I'll give it to you simple at first, and then we'll go backwards all the way. So just to go back over the story, you know the main characters involved. We're going to start from August 10th, and let's go into this in further more details. Now, you know this story is about two children that people have to technically say is missing, but I don't think that they're missing at all. I don't think that they're in a bunker. I think that they're dead. One of these two children, JJ Vallow, he has very loving grandparents, biological grandparents, and they always want the best for him. They always keep in contact with him.
First thing he always says, Papa, if I could just have that back one time. Please, God, give it to me one time.
So on August 10th, this will be their last contact with JJ, as JJ is supposed to be in Chandler, Arizona. On August the 31st, JJ's mother, Lori Vallow, would pack him in the car with his sister, Tylee, riding, and she will move to Rexburg, Idaho. Now, you heard me say that she had a brother with her, and this time I want you guys to not only know his name, but I want you to know Lori Vallow's brother's face. This is Alex Cox. Alex Cox is a very, very key person in this story. But there's one more person that moved with them. This is Lori Vallow's niece, Melanie Boudreau. I thought long and hard, should I mention her? I have to mention her. She is also a key player in everything we're about to discuss. Stop here for a moment. This is crazy. Out of the blue, a woman packs up her children and moves to an apartment complex in Idaho from Arizona, and she's convinced her adult niece and her brother to go along with her. I look at this and I think of the date, we're nearing fall. And this fall is so much stuff is going to happen with everybody in this car. It's mind-boggling. But there's a reason for it. I just imagine the children so happy to start a new life, the excitement, the possibility of meeting new friends, the sadness of leaving old friends, but it's just so sudden. And then we moved to September the 8th. That's when I told you they'll go to Yellowstone. 4 people will go, 3 will return. Well, there'll be sightings of 3 people again. We'll never get any sightings from Tylee. But Alex went, Lori went, JJ went, and Tylee went. And then on September the 17th, we see JJ again on someone's Ring doorbell. Looks as if he's playing with another kid, so everything seems normal. But then on September the 23rd, she enrolls JJ into school. But she never enrolled Tylee in school, the high school. And it would seem normal on the surface because this is the time, if you're going to move to another state and you have children, you want to do it around the school year time starting. You want to do it maybe like a month before, as if she did. to get everything situated to get them enrolled. But on September the 24th, she unenrolls him the next day, saying that she's going to homeschool him. And that was the last time anybody would see JJ again. All of a sudden, she wants to get a storage unit. And she goes to this storage unit and is caught on surveillance. And people think that it's her brother Alex. Could possibly be someone else. And this is the reason why I decided to put her niece, Melanie Boudreaux, into the story. Because of what happened on October the 2nd. But before I do that, I just want you guys to take this all in. In less than a month after their arrival, no one will hear from these children ever again. That's a reset. So Lori's niece, Melanie Boudreaux, was married to a guy by the name of Brandon Boudreaux. Now, technically, they still are married on paper, but they're separated. They don't get along because he thinks that she's wacky. We're going to get into why he thinks she's wacky later on. But something peculiar happened to him. Her separated spouse. He's outside. He pulls into his driveway and a bullet hit his windshield, cracks it, destroys the entire glass, missing him by inches. He looks. He sees a vehicle he recognizes, and the vehicle that he recognizes belongs to Charles Vallow. Yes, the deceased Charles Vallow that was once married to Lori Vallow, who doesn't have access to his vehicle. But we know who does have access to his vehicle. Now let's do a little segue from there. And I told you that this story is a little crazy. Remember earlier when I told you that when Lori moves to Idaho, she's going to get married to a guy? His name is Chad Daybell. I want to tell you guys about Chad Daybell's life and get us back up to speed. Chad Daybell is a fanatic LDS Mormon, and he has a strong belief that the world is going to come to an end on July of 2020. He is an acclaimed author, writing many books and owning a publishing company. He's also been married to a teacher by the name of Tammy Daybell since 1990. So that is a long, incredibly long time. Had a nice, beautiful wife, and they all have 5 children together. Moving to Salem, Idaho, which isn't far at all from Rexburg, where Lori Vallow moved with her brother and niece. Again, I go back to Lori's drive all the way to Rexburg, Idaho. She's driving up here, and there's a man in a town close by who has a successful, fanatical podcast and write these fanatical books, and she ends up marrying this guy. But here are the details that happened between those times. The same day that Melanie Boudreaux's husband has been shot at, October the 2nd, Lori Vallow buys a wedding ring. On October the 9th, Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy Daybell, loading groceries from a car as an intruder runs up to her and shoots at her to what she believes is a paintball. She screams. She's yelling for Chad, yelling for her husband, as a wife should, not knowing that another woman has bought a wedding ring. Why do the good ones? It's always the good ones that stuff happened to. Poor woman had no idea. Just 10 days after being shot at, she'd be dead. Mysterious circumstances She's no more. Charles writes these books and he goes around and he tells everyone he can predict the future and do all kind of crazy stuff. And one of the things he's been telling people is that he predicted that his wife is going to die. Oh, the convenience involved. He predicts that his wife is going to lose her life. What are the odds that someone can predict that their wife is going to die on October the 19th and a woman that just so happens to be close to his town is buying an engagement ring for her, a wedding ring for herself? She's laid to rest on October the 22nd. And on November the 5th, Lori Vallow will be married to Chad Daybell. We have 5 people leaving Arizona to spend their life in Idaho. Of the 5 people, 2 are missing and 1 has already found a husband. Don't worry. Shortly after this in November, her brother, Alex Cox, he'll find a new wife. Don't worry. Melanie will find also a new husband. Yes, just that quickly as she left, her marriage was finalized, legally divorced from Brandon. August 31st to November, 5 people arrived to the state of Idaho. The 2 children are missing, and all 3 adults miraculously found soulmates and are married in the month of November. But you have to answer for children that's not there. And they don't have their lives straight. It's Chad Daybell character. His family is told that Lori lost a daughter 2 years ago. And when I say lost, she died 2 years ago, and that she never had a son. That's how you get rid of Chad Daybell's family. But what about Lori's family? What about his amazing grandparents that wants to talk to their grandson? How do you get rid of them? You ignore them. You ignore all calls until you can't ignore them anymore. And this is when they go to the police for a welfare check. I know I'm supposed to go on with the story. It's just they didn't even let Tammy's body get cold. They didn't even let her body get cold, man. That's 3 possible deaths. We got more. November the 27th, the police gets a search warrant to search the home of Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. And when they get there, they're already gone to Hawaii. No records show the children ever entered the plane. And I know the police have to do this for their job, but no one really thinks that the children are there anyway. Remember those photos I showed you? Think about them now. Think about that smile. This is a woman that's smiling that can't find her 2 children. This is a man that's smiling. It hasn't been 2 months since his wife for over 30 years has lost her life mysteriously. And he mysteriously married a woman who bought a wedding ring prior to his wife passing away. This is reckless behavior for someone who should be shocked or crying. And you have to ask yourself, why are these people acting like this? Why are they acting so careless? I look at the alpha types and people who run their relationships, and we're going to get into a little bit later why Lori Vallow is an alpha and she runs her relationships that she's in. But on the other side, Chad Daybell does too. He has this belief in this podcast that he talks about the world coming to an end on July 2020. Could this be the reason for such abandoned recklessness? It doesn't feel as though this is planned out, especially when you're giving different people different versions of where the children are. Oh, my friend has JJ. My friend tells the cop I don't have JJ. Oh, I've never had a son. Oh, my daughter died 2 years ago. And then it gets to the basic questions when the police come and they start asking you. And they start going public in December when the entire world finds out about this weird case. And yet, you can't do the most simplest thing, produce your children. Just show us that they're alive. Show us that they're breathing. You can't do this. I find it interesting. I find it very interesting that the cops pull him over in a rental vehicle in January of this year. And they find JJ's birth certificate. They find Tylee's birth certificate. They find children's toys. The police get a search warrant for the storage space that they had. And when you go here, it's all JJ's toys and belongings stored away. But this storage unit was bought in October. This storage unit was bought before you bought a wedding ring. The day before. Wow. Like when I go back and I just, it's like a checklist. It's as if someone wants to reset their life. Lori Vallow is in jail right now. They flew her from Hawaii back to Rexburg, but none of the charges are for murder, and I'm glad that they're not, because they have her for so many more charges that they can keep her confined until they get enough evidence to secure, because I don't want her to get away with this. So I'm totally fine that they haven't charged her with murder. But there are questions that you guys have, and for me to answer those, we're going to have to go all the way back to before August the 10th, before JJ's last FaceTime call with his grandparents. Now let's talk about the story of Lori Vallow. Chad Daybell will be Lori Vallow's 5th husband, Charles Vallow being her 4th husband. Her 3rd husband, crazy. I'll say that later. Her 3rd husband would be Joseph Ryan, who's also the father of Tylee Ryan. Joseph Ryan would mysteriously die of a heart attack. Let's just come back to this later. Just know her 3rd husband is Tylee's father. Her 2nd husband is the father of Kobe, her adult son now, and we're going to talk about Kobe a little bit later too. Nothing on her 1st husband. In 2006, that's when Lori will marry Charles Vallow, and the marriage seemed great. Up into 2014, they'll adopt JJ, they'll move to Hawaii, have small businesses, live the perfect life. They moved to Hawaii because she wanted to move to Hawaii. I want you guys to remember that. She wanted to move to Hawaii. And then they moved back later to Arizona because she wanted to move back to Arizona. Lori Vallow is a Mormon. Her entire family seems to be Mormons. And during this time, during the end of Hawaii, that's when she started to listen to a podcast from a guy by the name of Chad Daybell. See why I went backwards now? You see how you connecting the dots? She become such a big fan of his that on December of 2018, she finally meets him in person and goes onto his podcast. As a YouTuber, I'm just a dude who turns on his camcorder. And I had to come to terms that some people are not going to see me that way. Some people, I'm not going to it, but you can have some fanatical people that want you to talk to them or want to meet you. And I guess it just comes with the territory of putting yourself out there in front of thousands of people, possibly millions of people. So the same thing with Chad Daybell, doing this show, writing all those books. And I guess she really, really wanted to meet him. Now check out how fast this goes. Now we're talking about December of 2018. I like when cases are like new because I can put like what was I doing during that time. But we go from December to her first meeting this guy while she's married to Charles, her fourth husband. And by February, Charles says that he wants a divorce because she's tried to kill him. She's crazy. She got these fanatical ideas. She told him that she's going to be God one day. This is 3 months from her doing the podcast with Chad Daybell. This leads me to think that they've been talking way longer than her going to be on this podcast. And also, I think something else happened when she went to go do that podcast. She did a little bit more than podcasting. So Charles wants to file a divorce. Charles said that she's been stealing tens of thousands of dollars from him. This is in February of last year, 2019. And right in the midst of this, she leaves for 2 months, 53 days to be exact. She leaves, but she leaves the children. That's important. Because you see couples at the end of their marriage all the time, end of their ropes. They can't stand each other. They want to get away. Divorce is getting ugly. But you don't see a woman leaving her children. That's important to me. But after 2 months, she pops back in. They cancel the divorce. Don't ask me why. I don't know what was up with Charles. But he gets back with her for just a little bit, but it doesn't last. And eventually they move to get a divorce. So we're around maybe the beginning of the second quarter of 2019. And around this time, April, May-ish, as Lori is going through her divorce with Charles, this is when Brandon decides to leave Melanie. Remember her niece, Melanie? And this is important because Melanie has the same fanatical religious beliefs as Lori does. They both do. They're both getting a divorce around the same time. Brandon is going to eventually say that Melanie told him that the children were possessed, turned into zombies, so that's why they had to get rid of them. Which again is why I said that no one is any bunker hidden away anywhere. Their plans were to get rid of the children. And all of this leads to July the 11th of 2019, the big missing piece that you guys haven't heard about yet, the death of Charles Vallow. Before I say this, remember, on August the 31st, they're moving to Idaho. So on July the 11th of 2019, Charles comes over to Lori Vallow's house to pick up his son, JJ. And there are multiple accounts from what happened. And the strange thing is the multiple accounts are coming from the same person. Alex Cox, Lori Vallow's brother, who will be leaving with her out of town a month later to Idaho, said that Charles came in angry, and he had a bat, and he tried to attack Tylee Ryland with the bat, and he tried to attack him, so he shot him in the chest. Watch it for yourselves.
He was just yelling at me.
Okay. What was he yelling at you about?
About my sister because I'd broken up a tussle with them earlier. And he told me not to interfere anymore with them or I'd pay. And he came at me with a bat.
Okay, so he showed up in the house with a bat in his hand?
No.
Okay, so
There was a scuffle earlier with my sister and my niece. My niece got involved.
about earlier meaning earlier this week, earlier
no,
this morning?
just this morning, before they left.
Before your wife left?
My sister.
Before your sister left?
Yeah.
Okay, who lives here with you?
Nobody. I don't live here. My sister lives here and my niece lives here.
And you're just visiting?
I was visiting for the night.
Okay, so you're over here visiting your sister and your
Yes.
niece.
Yes.
Okay, and there was a tussle between your sister and her husband.
Yes.
And does the husband live here or no?
No.
Okay.
Lives in Houston.
Okay, is he an ex-husband or just current husband?
They're working on that.
Gotcha. So at some point earlier today, they get into some type of domestic?
Yeah, just this morning, then they left, and then he came at me.
They left meaning who? Both of parties? Or-
Yeah, my sister took my niece and my nephew.
Okay, so they left.
To create some space from him, and then he came at me.
Okay, but did he leave also?
No,
He stayed here.
he stayed.
So you guys are kind of talking in between or what? Who are you? Who are you? No, just go back. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So it's just you and your brother-in-law.
Yes.
Okay? And kind of go through it. You
So-
say something like, "Hey, don't touch my sister," or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he picked up the bat
Where was the bat at?
in the living room.
Okay.
The guy inside me.
So you both, so you get in an argument. What is it over?
Well, it was over my sister. He was getting physical with her, and so my niece came out with her bat, and then he took the bat away from her.
Wait a minute. I thought you said your niece left.
She did. This was before.
Okay. So before your sister and your niece left,
Yeah.
at some point your sister and her husband are arguing,
Yes.
verbal argument, and then your niece pulls out a bat.
Well, it wasn't verbal. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with her bat.
Your niece.
Yes.
Okay.
And then she poked at him, and then he took it away.
Okay.
And then I stepped in and told them they needed to separate.
Right.
So then my sister leaves with my niece.
And how long ago did they leave? It's been like an hour, 10 minutes?
20 minutes maybe? I don't know.
Okay. So not terribly long.
No.
Oh, okay.
And then he's coming back at me, and he's still got the bat in his hand. I'm like, what are you doing?
And where are you at it? Where are
We
you
were
both
in the
at?
living room,
Okay.
and then I turned around, and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun. I always
So
carry it.
you went to your room, meaning the
Yeah,
room
well,
you're
the room I'm
staying in?
Yeah.
Okay. And you brought a gun with
Yes.
you?
Yes.
Do you always
Yes.
bring a gun?
I have a concealed carry always,
Okay.
just to be safe.
Hi. Who are you? Okay. Just stand over there for just a second, guys.
And then I told him to put the bat down, and he wouldn't, and he came at me
And
again.
the wife just showed up as well. So you told him to put the.
Yes.
So where are you at?
Back
Where
off.
are you at now? Or did you stay in your bedroom?
No,
Okay. Why didn't you stay just in your bedroom, close the door? Is that something you didn't think about, or?
didn't even occur to me.
Okay. So walk me through it. So you go back into your room
So I just went back to the living room. I'm like, what is your problem?
with the gun in your hand.
Yes. And I said, I want you to put that bat down, and he wouldn't do it. And he's like, and he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head. So I shot him to stop him.
Did you notice how his story changed? At first he said that the children were there, or Tylee was there. Then he changed and said that she wasn't there and they had already left. But he's so cool. He's so nonchalant. Everybody is nonchalant during this entire crazy event. We're talking about a woman who has had 2 husbands die and 2 children disappear. Let me put this picture of her marrying her 5th husband again on the state of Hawaii, right where she ran away to with Charles Vallow years prior. That is the smiling face of a woman who doesn't know where her children are, and lost her ex-husband in this same year. Reset. I'm going to tell you what everybody's conclusion is when you talk to people about this case. The conclusion is they're all a bunch of religious nuts, and they aren't worried about trying to solve anything. They're not upset. Everything is fine. Because they're going to go to some heaven somewhere, and it won't matter anyway. I think some of that is true, but I always look at what motivates a person. I guess what I say, what's under the motivation. In insurance, when I used to work at insurance sales, they used to teach us you got to remove the stall. Someone tells you, I want to buy the insurance, but I want to wait for my wife. That's a stall. That's not the real reason he's not getting the insurance. And so while I feel that these fanatical beliefs are important, I think that there's something underneath. Let's go back over to my black room. Quarantined at home, I had the opportunity to watch Netflix's Waco. Story I've known for so long. I remember being young and the FBI first raided the location and people made a big deal, but it really struck home watching that television show because I kept wondering the kind of mindset that follows people and believes their word, believe that they have magic powers or that someone's special. And when I look at the people that did it, something was wrong with them. They came from a troubled past. They was looking to belong to something. There's always something underneath. But when I think about these things and this cult-like society that Chad Daybell was trying to make, Lori Vallow was a leader. She wasn't a follower. Why did her and Charles Vallow move to Hawaii? Because she wanted to. I see a narcissistic sociopath that always wants to hit the reset button. And the scariest person, the worst person that you do not want to be, is who is ever on the opposite side of when she tries to hit that reset button. Tries things out, sampling life as if it's different flavors of hors d'oeuvres at a party. Let me try this husband out, not working, reset. Let me try husband number 2, it's not working, reset. Let me try husband number 3, that's not working, reset, and mysteriously dies. These are before the teachings of Chad Daybell. This was in her life prior to this fanatical thinking. I think she changed locations with Charles Vallow because she didn't want to get a divorce again because of how society would look at her. So inside of that marriage, she found other ways to try to reset. Let's go to Hawaii here. Let's start a juice bar here. Let's start this job here. No, let's go back and pack up everything and move back to Arizona here. Searching as if reset is a drug. And inside of this marriage, inside of studying and her mind wandering around, that's when she found Chad Daybell. And that's when the urge came over her so strongly. It wasn't about what society thought anymore. Let me just run away for 58 days and just get a little hit of that reset. Charles calls her back. I think it was Lori who was the ringleader who convinced her brother to look into this, to convince her niece to look into this, to use her alpha powers to get them to jump up and reset with her. I think it was her idea. She's no follower. I think knowing the world can come to an end in July, it just gives you an excuse to look like you don't care. But I don't think that's the reason she doesn't care. I don't think that's the reason she was there when the police was outside with her children, with her dead husband inside of the house. I just think that's in her personality. She knows my brother just helped me reset. So I'm going to help my brother reset. Crazy thing is her brother's going to lose his life too. He's going to die mysteriously. In 1 year, your husband dies, your brother dies, your children are missing. You want to hear selfishness at its highest peak? Her son Kobe, when she told him that Charles was dead, she did it through text messaging. And in these text messages, she never told him why. She never told him what happened. No matter how much he pled, no matter how much he begged his mom that he never called mom in a text message, he called her Lori. He would ask her specific questions in these text messages. After he would ask, how did my dad die? What happened? She would ignore those and answer the other question. He would respond back, okay, I now see that you're reading my text. Are you going to tell me what happened to my... No. He needs to be quiet. He don't want to be on the opposite end of that reset. It's this poor kid, Kobe, who's going to make a YouTube video pleading for his mom to tell the truth, helping the investigation of what happened to his little brother, JJ. His mom that had a $1 million insurance policy on Charles Vallow. Talk about a reset. But you know, one thing that stuck out to me, really tiny to most people, stuck out to me. It was her lying and telling her friend to tell the police that she had JJ. And this stuck out to me because if you truly believe in this religion, if you're this fanatical, why would you lie? If you love this belief so strongly, why would you break one of the 10 Commandments? Why would you lie? To fulfill a prophecy, you must break one of the rules. On August of 2020, she's going to reset again. She's not going to cry and say, I was duped, that the world didn't come to an end. She's probably going to find some pen pal. And she's not going to give any interviews, so the world will forget about her. And she's probably going to get married for a 6th time. I used to think that Chad Daybell was crazy to marry a woman like this, but obviously he has no problem resetting either. Which Which brings me back to Yellowstone. I used to imagine Yellowstone as being sunny and sort of sunny day geyser I put up at the beginning, but now I remember that Yellowstone is in the cold part of our country and it's often cold there. It's not some sunny place tourists go all the time. It's just a cold, windy place full of animals and land and possibly the body of 2 children left alone who will never get the reset like their mother does. I can only hope one day, through all of the evil and narcissism inside of her body, that she does have a real religious awakening. And it bothers her. It hurts her. Hurts her to know what she did to those children. So I say to my man, stop. If you do see him, you guys take care of each other. Listen to Tylee. And to everyone else, don't kill. Make a sandwich.